Welcome back to the Did We Stutter show. Sorry for the hiatus last week. Don't get sassy, Alana. Oh, here we go. You didn't see what happened 5 seconds before I started pressing record. But so you see, we have a third party here. Her name's Alana. It's my sister. She, as you know, she comes on when there's an odd man out. So Marianne was the odd one out for Poldark. And let's check in actually. Has she watched Poldark in the last couple of weeks after we challenged her?
I have not, because I read Outlander instead and had to recover from it.
You just have a one episode.
You said I have not, like a person who forgot to turn in their homework.
Yeah, that's me.
May I have an extension, please?
Yes, please.
I was doing other extracurriculars.
Well, the rent is due. But we're here today because I'm the odd person out for Outlander. So Lana read Outlander, I don't know, a couple years ago.
2015.
Oh, ancient history, because that's a different age. And then Marianne read it recently because Alana encouraged her to. And then Alana said the show was good. I've never watched the show because the description was like, not my thing. And then, so Marianne jumped on the bandwagon. And well, Marianne's been swooning for like 5 weeks, I think.
Sadly.
Yeah, so I'm relinquishing my host duties. And I'll let Marianne and Alana take it from here to try and convince me to watch Outlander, which I think I've made up my mind, like Marianne, not really gonna watch it. Like she's not gonna watch Poldark, I don't think. I'm not gonna watch Outlander or read it.
But what about reading Outlander?
I don't know. Alana's face, she's judging me. Tell us what you're thinking, Alana. Just lay it on.
I know your taste, and I just don't think you're gonna like it.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Because
true.
Yeah.
But I want her to read it.
You want me to watch Poldark? I'll trade you.
I don't think that you can compare the content in Poldark to the content in Outlander.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, I'm casting for Buffy.
Okay, that was like 2011.
That's a lot of episodes, a lot of hours of my life, a lot of apples.
Oh man. So Outlander, I think, Alana, you do really great summaries. Could you summarize Outlander for us?
Sure. I have notes. I mean, I'm very familiar with the show and the books. So, I'm going to pull up my summary. So, if you're not familiar with Outlander, Outlander is a series of novels. It gets its name from the first novel called Outlander by Dana Gabaldon, and it's a show that kind of centers on our main character, Claire Randall. She and her husband, it's 6 months in the novel, it's 1945, 6 months after the end of World War II. And they're English, but they are in the Highlands of Scotland in Inverness, where they are kind of rekindling their marriage. They have actually they've been married for 6 to 7 years, but they've spent more time apart than together because of World War II. And so they're in Inverness in their second honeymoon, if you will. And so without giving too much away, Claire is post World War II. She was a combat nurse. We don't really know what Frank does. It's kind of alluded that he may have been in intelligence. And so Claire has now taken up The Hobbit. The Hobbit is sitting right here.
Yeah, different series.
Different having for her channel. We'll give you a link.
Let me finish before you start
giving
out all my details.
He was a secret agent.
So
okay,
it's alluded that Frank was in intelligence and Claire was a combat nurse. So Claire was actually on the field where Frank probably was not, which is interesting and an interesting gender dynamic, if you will, in 1945. But Claire has taken up the habit, I almost said Hobbit again, of botany, and she likes to study plants and what their medicinal uses are, which is really important because that's part of her persona, if you will, for the whole rest of the novel. But she goes to these standing circles of stones, a standing stone circle. Standing stone circle.
Sound it out.
I cannot speak English. And so because she particularly wants to get her hands on a specific plant that she saw. And so she touches a circle in particular. A stone in particular, and she gets catapulted back to 1743, And the importance of 1743 is that it is 2 years before the Jacobite Rebellion of 1745, which is considered one of the last Jacobite rebellions, if not the last Jacobite rebellion, in which the wearing of tartan and a lot of clans were decimated. Tartan was banned. They took away a lot of the Highlanders, things like broadswords and all this stuff. So when it comes to Scotland trying to get a lot of freedom, which is still a trend that we kind of see, the 1745 was significant.
Waving my flag.
So that is my tongue-twisted summary of Outlander. And well, no, it's not. I'm not done. So when she travels back in 1743, she meets Jaime Fraser. So
Marianne falls over.
She meets Jaime Fraser, and you've got this tension within Claire. Claire is our narrator. We're in her head the entire time between, do I stay? Should I stay or should
I go now?
And that's what it sits around.
Rachel,
you don't even know what happens.
Yeah, you don't even know what happens. Should she stay?
It's quite obvious she should stay. Stay where Jaime is.
So that's Outlander in a nutshell. I'm not. We'll get into Jaime and Frank later.
I know.
Right.
That was a great summary.
Thank you.
I'm so bad at summarizing, or I just go on and I just spoil it for everyone, to be honest. I get very excited.
Speaking of spoilers, should we talk about spoilers? Because I feel like, disclaimer, I feel like you cannot talk about this book and have a detailed discussion without disclaimers. Without spoilers.
Yes, let's have spoilers.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay.
That's the
Spoiler
only way
warning.
I can. Spoiler warning. And also, I remember when Outlander first came out as a show, and I went, oh, that looks great, but I want to read the book. So I avoided Outlander. You can avoid Outlander, because I did. And I went in blind, and I'm so glad I went in blind, because it was such a journey, escapism. As you all, if you're watching our show, I read a lot of romance books. So this hit the spot, but it was an elevated romance book. I think of this book as Gone with the Wind or Pride and Prejudice, where romance is a strong central theme, but there's so many other plots or parts to it, like the setting, for example. The setting is a huge character for Outlander. So I don't even know where to begin. Which spoiler do we want to start with?
I think it's important to start with the trifecta of Claire, Frank, and Jaime, because that's the crux of the novel of
the heart.
Yeah, Claire's internal crisis of, should I stay and get back to 19th my own time, or stay in 1743. And the premise of this particular novel is Claire's narrating and telling the reader. We don't really know who Claire is talking to. Who is she writing to? I don't know. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if that's revealed in other novels, because I've only read the first 3. But she's like, oh, I got to get back to the Standing Stones so I can get back to Frank.
Cranadoon.
So when she's writing, does it seem like she's actually writing to someone or something rather than just whoever's listening, which is the audience?
Well, I don't know who her audience is. I've heard other readers of this novel kind of pose this question, especially in the first few books. Again, I don't know if that's in the other novels, but you're like, who is she talking to?
Does it matter?
I don't know.
I don't think I never thought of her talking to anyone.
Okay.
When I read it, I thought it was just her being like, oh my goodness, I'm in a different century. And I just went, girl, I would not survive. She took that very well. I would be like, where am I? Where's my contact solution? Where's my antibiotics? I would not survive that. For sure would not. She's
a combat nurse, though.
She is so strong. First of all, I love female first person perspective in a book. It's just great to submerge yourself. And she is so smart, strong,
funny,
witty, funny. And it's so great to read the beginning of a book like that. Because, some romance books, they find their way in the end. It's so nice to just start off with it. And you're like, oh man, where's she going to go? Oh, Rachel. She went back in time.
Quickly. It happens quickly. Rachel had her hand up.
Oh, so Marianne said, oh gosh, where's my contact solution? So does Claire do that? Does she get, oh gosh, where's my water? Oh gosh.
Not at all.
Because
cool as a cucumber.
And Claire had another thing that's important about Claire is that when she was a combat nurse, so she's used to gore, and she's used to kind of living in tents and all this stuff. But also she is an orphan. So her parents passed away at an early age in a car accident. And so she was raised by her uncle Lamb, who was an archaeologist. So she actually spent her childhood being transient in all these different parts of the world. Okay. You know, her uncle taught her how to, dig a ditch in the dirt to use the restroom and all of this stuff. What? So she knows how to be a nature woman. Maybe. Yeah, she knows how to be a nature woman. Okay. And that's part of the introduction of the book is that Claire has never settled down, even as a married woman. So, she's always looking for permanency because she's never set roots anywhere.
And in comes Jaime. Is he her rock?
Well, that does pose the question of, is home a person or a place?
Ooh.
Or neither.
But I want to go back to kind of go back to Frank and Jaime, because I think all of that kind of ties into it.
Okay.
So what did you think about Frank?
Me? Mm-hmm. I mean, he's a nice guy. he's a good husband. I liked how she made so Diana, she takes Claire we're back in time, and Frank in the beginning is the author. Oh, and Frank in the beginning he's really into the genealogy of where he comes from and all the Randalls. And when we go back in time, she faces his ancestor. Is it John?
Jerk.
Yeah,
Jonathan.
Jack Black Randall, who looks exactly like Frank. And I'm like, ooh, hello, parallels, foils, here we go.
But,
And I just liked that. I liked that a lot because I was like, oh, well, this is confusing and this is hard. I liked Frank. He was a nice guy. And I think it was she had to be pulled back into her own time. And he was the root for her. He was the branch to keep her back into the 1940s. Right. So, but he was okay. It was a lot of info dump in the beginning. And I was like, okay, do I need to know this? I guess I do. I guess I do.
Because that's really all we get of Frank.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we don't get much.
That answers the question. Like, what percentage of Frank is the first book? So he's probably like 5%.
I mean, like 10.
10.
Yeah. And then I would say not even.
Why are they married?
That's a good question. There's nothing wrong with Frank. I would say that their relationship is very normal. It's not spicy,
Does it have to be
along. Spicy? That's the thing. It's a comfortable marriage. There's I think in these types of books, people tend to get into fandoms. I'm Team Frank. There are people who are Team Frank, by the way.
There are?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can't really say Frank does make a future appearance, but that's all I'm going to say. I'm not saying anything else.
Okay. Is there a fight that breaks out?
So, but Frank is a nice guy.
Okay.
He's a nice guy.
Professor. He's academic, but really, they humor each other. He's he's older than Claire.
Mm-hmm.
So he's academic, he's reserved, he's a bit aristocratic, he's very refined in a lot of ways. Right. Claire is a little bit rambunctious though.
Oh, she's crazy.
She curses.
There's a scene where she embarrasses Frank when they're in Scotland. I think she spills hot tea or something.
Yeah.
She lets off some profanities and Frank's like, trying to, he's trying to not make it seem like he's married a heathen. But that's who she is. She's a potty mouth. It's Claire. But you can kind of tell that they're not really interested in each other's passions. Like she is interested in medicine and plants. He's into genealogy, but they humor each other, which I think is normal in a marriage.
And I think we got a really weird snapshot of their marriage. This was after the war, so they weren't together. So they're dealing with their own PTSD or whatever. They're trying to get back to normal. So we just saw like this snapshot of just this normal couple just trying to move on.
Yeah, they've spent more time apart than together.
Okay, so it's not Frank's fault that he comes across as dry because it's not about him anyway, obviously.
And they love each other. They do love each other.
Oh, they do? That's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad
they're opposites in a lot of ways, but it was a comfortable marriage. But if Jaime had never shown up, Claire would never think twice. It wouldn't have ever crossed her mind that a different type of relationship could be out there.
Okay.
In a different time period, in a different place, in a different Oh, let's talk about Jaime.
Boy. It's like it's gone on too long. Baby, please.
And this is not even about the show, it's the book. What he says to her. Like, I like how he was friends with her at first.
Yeah.
Like when they met, so how they meet is he's like, he has this big injury. She heals him. She like scolds him like, why are you bleeding to death? And then they like end up at the castle and she starts to break down. And one of my favorite parts, so one of the things I highlighted was when he just held her and went, it's going to be okay. And he doesn't even know her. Oh, because it all like, go for it, Alana.
So when she travels back through time, she ends up in an altercation between redcoats and these Highlanders. Jaime's a part of these Highlanders, and she immediately comes across Blackjack Randall, and he assaults her.
Sorry,
he tries
Blackjack Randall is
Frank's
husband's
ancestor.
relative.
Frank's ancestor, but Frank's face.
Yeah, creepy.
So he's assaulting her. I mean, it's nothing graphic, but he's manhandling her. And a Highlander comes in and breaks it up. Murtaugh. I think, is it Murtaugh or Angus? I think it's Murtaugh.
One of those two. I think it's Murtaugh.
Yeah. So, and he knocks her out because she's like, you better let me go. I ain't got time for that. She got assaulted once. She's not trying to have that happen. She's like, man, what's happening? She thinks she doesn't know what's happening. She thinks she has somehow stumbled upon like a movie scene, but she's like, why are they shooting live musket balls at each other? She's really confused and disoriented. So anyway, Murtaugh knocks her out, and then he takes her to this remote cabin somewhere, and all these Highlanders are in there, and they're like, with this woman, she's in her shift according to 1743, but in 1945 she's fully clothed. And so they're trying to figure out what to do with her. Is she an English spy? Remember, this is 2 years before the Jacobite Rebellion. They don't trust her because she's English. And so, long story short, we see Jaime in the corner. He's completely dislocated his shoulder. So they're trying to fix it. Her medical training kicks in. She's like, stop it. You're going to make it worse. She relocates his shoulder. And so then after that, Dougal Mackenzie, who was Jaime's uncle, we find out later, and is the leader of this group because his brother is a laird of a castle and a clan.
Excuse me.
He it's like, we can't stay here. The English are going to be looking for us. And so they have to all mount their horses and head back to Castle Leoch. And so Jaime and Claire, of course, are on the same horse.
Oh, sharing.
Of course.
Yeah. Of
and
course.
puts his like kilt thing on her to keep her warm. And it's great.
And then they finally make it to Castle Leoch. And so she can't take it anymore. We get some background on Jaime, but she has to pretend that she's from 1743. Because she calls herself Mrs. Beecham because that's her maiden name. She doesn't want to use Randall because she doesn't want to be associated with Blackjack Randall. Right. But she is a Randall. And so she uses her maiden name, Beecham. And she tells Jaime that her husband is dead. She's trying to figure out how to explain that she popped up in the middle of nowhere. Where did you come from? Who are you?
And she starts crying, and then he just holds her like complete stranger. Like, who does that? That's where I went, who is this? Like, this is so nice.
Who is this tall, strapping, muscular, redheaded beefcake?
Pretty much. She's fearless, smart, funny. Like, it's just he's what they call a really great book boyfriend. A really great.
Frank is cupcake. Frank's cupcake, Jaime beefcake.
Question.
Totally.
Answer.
Yes.
So her accent. She probably sounds like she's from somewhere.
She's British.
Yeah, and they can tell that she is they know she's English, but they think you can tell she's kind of well off according to their standards because even her shift, what they call a shift, is well made. Her shoes are well made. She has on her gold wedding band. At first they're trying to like, is this lady a prostitute? Because they saw how Blackjack Randall was trying to handle her, and she's like, get off me, but they can't really, they know she has medical training, so she's a nurse. They can't really place her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rachel's like, she's spinning. She's like,
I'm not buying it. She sticks out too much. I mean, her shoes can't be 1743 shoes. They're going to be something.
They're always suspicious. They're always suspicious of her throughout the whole book.
Then, right?
Well, you know, that does pop up.
Okay.
She's accused of witchcraft and being a witch. The laird of Castle Leoch, Colin Mackenzie, who's Jubal's brothers, these are Jaime's uncles, they keep watch on her because they don't trust her.
Okay. I would too, actually. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, homegirl.
Yeah.
She
was in a shift.
Yeah, she's making hanging out with Jaime and the other dude. What's going on here now, y'all?
They don't, yeah, they can't place her.
Ooh.
I think Claire does a good job navigating it.
Sorry, I wasn't even gonna talk this episode, but I got all these questions. So, you know, in life where sometimes you're the enigma in a situation, but you love that people that can't figure you out. Is that Claire's situation where her asset is not being able to be figured out?
In a way, yes.
Yes, I think so.
But also that kind of leads to a point, or kind of when it comes to a novel where your universe of the book, time travel is a thing, there's magical realism in this novel. So this is, I wouldn't call it an alternate universe. Later books do start to flesh out some of these details or what the rules of this universe are. Some people can time travel and some cannot. So in a world with magical realism, is Claire popping it out of nowhere or being quirky really an anomaly? Because there are these other weird characters. Galus is a strange character. We have, there's an apothecary in the second book who's really strange. Claire in this book sees a water horse in a loch.
Water horse?
The Loch Ness monster.
And it's important because they're in the Highland of Scotland, in a place that is, I think even now, still very superstitious. So these are people who believe in fairies and changelings, and you know, they believe in witches and witchcraft and people being, changelings are very specific to that region when it comes to mythology. But this is a world where, you know, there's some straddling of the line.
Oh, so she fits right in for being like magical.
Out of place.
There are other strange happenings.
What does that mean? Are you allowed to say?
Well, her seeing a water horse.
I don't know what that is.
So it's kind of like the Loch Ness monster.
Oh,
yeah. She sees it in the lake. I love this stuff.
I was like, is there a fae here?
There's no fae here.
Diana Gabaldon, she doesn't get, it's not a fantasy novel. I wouldn't call it a fantasy novel, but this is a universe where strange occurrences are just a fact of the world of Outlander.
Like our world. Okay.
Right.
Just in a different way.
I definitely see how fantasy romance novels are inspired by Outlander, though. When they were like when they were talking about the Scottish history, I was like, oh, this is like the Fae history. Like they're just listing out. So it's just really interesting to see what other romance novels try to do. But Diana does it just so well.
Right, because this is 31 years. This book is 31 years old now.
Really?
Yeah, it was written. It was published in 1991, and you can see post 1991 how Outlander shaped a lot of other novels.
Oh, totally. I was like, yes, I'm reading the origin. I'm reading the.
It's kind of like reading Lord of the Rings as an origin, watching Star Wars as an origin.
Yep.
Oh man, imagine being that person who just starts the domino effect. Wouldn't that be so
She's
cool?
still writing. She just published a 9th novel.
How old is she? She's 60?
I don't know, but she looks great. She's probably in her 50s at the latest. Yeah. What else should we talk about, Marianne? This is a hard book to review.
It's a lot. It's a lot of different layers. Oh, Rachel, you had a question.
Oh, I don't want to interrupt. I just had a topic in case you guys need that topic. So the TV show is really, really popular, or is it called a TV show, or
it's a show?
And it's Stars or HBO?
Stars.
So you've both watched at least some of the show.
Yes, I had to stop.
Okay. Because
because this book, like, I get really into things, and I think it's really easy to get in a rabbit hole in Outlander. Just like reading it, getting in, like, I want to go to Scotland. I want to go to the rocks and bring some antibiotics and touch the rocks and see if I go somewhere. Like that's like the level I go to. So I had to stop and be like, I need to like do the laundry. I need to take care of my kid. I need to like cook. I cannot dream of Jamie Fraser like all this time. So I had to stop. And I think I will read the second novel when you reread. When you reread it, Alana.
Okay, I'm actually planning to read it. I'm planning to read it. I don't know if I'll be able to get to it this year, but it'll be definitely be by 2023.
That's fine with me. I got plenty.
Because I wanted to space them out
yeah, it's a lot.
Because when I first read Outlander in 2015, I didn't know it was a show. And then I got the book and I was like, now a Star's Sweat. So I by that point, the first season came out in 2014. So I actually read the book and the show in parallel.
That's what I did.
And I kind of, and I mean, the show does a really good job capturing the essence of the book. Of course, the book's always going to be more detailed, but this time I'm just reading the series. And I'm just going to, however long it takes, I'm going to read a book and then go back and watch the show and kind of compare and contrast the two. But I'm trying to keep them as separate entities because book Claire is very unique. I don't think book Claire and TV Claire are the same. I think book Jaime and TV show Jaime are very similar. I think analyzing the show in the books is really interesting because I think they did a really good job, but they have enough differences and interpretations in there that can sometimes affect how you view book Claire, especially.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
But the show doesn't cheapen the book.
No.
No.
I think Frank TV show Frank is very different.
What does that mean?
Frank. They interpret a lot and they add scenes in the first season, especially that are not in the book at all. It's creative freedom, even though Diana Gabaldon does help with the show.
Oh yeah, in the show we see Frank's reaction when Claire leaves, and I went, "Oh, that's not in the book." When she touches the rocks and
she goes missing. She goes missing.
And we see him grieve, we see him struggle. Aww. Yeah, it's really like, oh yeah, TV show Frank is very different.
In the show, he thinks she left him for another man.
Okay.
Which she kind of did.
Well, he's not wrong.
She's not wrong. Oh yeah, I think this is a great part of the book that like Claire is always thinking about, I need to go back, but she's still staying. Like she's struggling throughout. Yeah. Go for it, Alana.
Spoiler. So this is where we can get to a spoiler.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a chemistry with Jaime and Claire.
They become friends first.
They do become friends, but they're not macking on each other. Okay, they're just not.
Yeah, they're not.
So, but however, for Jaime is a wanted man. He has a history with Blackjack Randall. Jamie's been in prison. He's an outlaw. I mean, he's really an innocent man, but the English are tearing up the Highland. They're tearing up Scotland at this point. I mean, what haven't the Redcoats done at that point in time? So Jamie's been flogged twice by Blackjack Randall. He's an outlaw. He's accused of a murder he did not do. So there is a part of the movie, I'm sorry, it is cinematic. There is a part of the show in the book where Claire is face to face with Blackjack Randall again. He thinks that Claire is a Jacobite and is working for the Jacobite cause, because why else would she be hanging out with these Highlanders?
And I would, but that's just me.
And so they can protect you, I guess.
He's trying to turn her over to the English.
Oh.
And she's like, how am I going to get out of this? So Dougal Mackenzie, with the clan's lawyer, Ned Gowan.
They have a lawyer?
I love
Ned Gowan.
I love Ned too.
He's just a spicy old man. It's not spicy in a bad way, but I just love him. He's
a good side character.
Yeah, he is. And so they devised this plan where, because she's an English subject, Blackjack Randall's like, we can just turn you into, we can just do whatever we want with you, right? but there are some rules. So Dougal Mackenzie's like, the English cannot compel a Scottish subject to do whatever without the permission of the laird. So the only way I can protect you from Blackjack Randall is to turn you from an English woman to a Scot. You have to marry one of us. So this is a compulsive marriage.
Fake marriage, forced marriage.
Who else to marry than Jaime and Claire? And this is perfect for the Mackenzie brothers because they are related to Jaime. Jaime could one day become laird of Castle Leoch, but Dougal has his own plans.
His name is Dougal.
So, but if Jaime marries an English woman, this is really, if he marries anybody really, who's not within this clan, it kind of unbalances it. So Jaime cannot become laird of, it works in Dougal's favor. So that to keep her safe, Jaime agrees to do it. Claire doesn't really want to do it, but she's like, I really don't want to go to Blackjack Randall because he's a sadist.
Yeah.
Blackjack Randall is probably one of the worst villains I've ever read.
He's really evil.
He's that bad.
Wait, so I can think of some pretty bad villains.
He's that bad.
What is
he is a sadist
on the weekends? Torture
he
people?
Is a sadist. Yes,
yeah.
He is a sadist in the worst way possible.
He's a Satanist?
He doesn't care.
Sadist.
At this point, he might as well be.
Okay, I figured a lot of
there is nobody, like he don't care if you're man, woman, or child. He will abuse you because he's a sadist.
Because he enjoys it.
He's a sadist.
So
I can't say sadist again.
Yeah.
Probably he needs deliverance.
Where does that come from?
The devil. Well,
it's from the pit.
Where's my oil? Cast it out.
Oh yeah, he's influenced by demons. Okay,
yeah,
check. Got it.
He's the worst of the worst. He's the worst villain I've ever read.
Who never gets caught.
Here.
I can't say if he never gets caught or not.
So in the first book, he doesn't get what was coming to him.
I cannot confirm or deny.
I knew there was more to that story.
Cannot confirm or deny.
But not in the first book, it sounds like.
Because I don't want to ruin it. You haven't read the second book yet.
I have not.
So much.
Well, if there's any justice in the world, he'll get his.
Yes, but Jaime and Claire do get married.
Oh, it's so great.
Point of the book.
Let Marianne tell it.
And yeah, go ahead. You take it
because she gushes.
Oh gosh, I just gush.
And I can take a sip of water.
Well, I love how she is very reluctant to marry him, which is true because she's already married. And you read in her head of like, no, I can't do this. She gets drunk pretty much the whole time. And I think she was drunk the whole ceremony because she's just like, what is going on? What's happening?
Like
and don't they marry where Frank and her got married?
Yes, they actually got married in the same church. Where Frank and Claire actually got married 200 years in the future.
Creepy.
Yeah, that was too much for. I was like, oh man.
Is she double married? So weird.
Yeah, but she talks about this throughout the book. Like she's not like, oh yay, I'm married.
It's a huge issue for her, and it's a huge issue for her. She feels very guilty about it, and she also at this point, she doesn't really know. Is she 200 years in the future? See, the thing where you just look at the book as the book, and if you've seen the show and you kind of ignore the show, Claire doesn't know if she's just disappeared in 1945. She doesn't know the mechanics of it. So she doesn't know, is Frank is not born in 1743. Yeah, so is she still married?
Yeah.
Ooh. She doesn't realize that technically there's a parallel or something going on.
Yeah.
There's some weird rules going on. So
yeah.
So you hinted that she knows that she can potentially get back to the era in which she's from.
She thinks. She's assuming that she can.
So she hasn't tested it out in this book because she's going to test it out at some point, I imagine.
There does come a point in this book. This is why Jaime is so great. So spoiler alert, she does eventually tell Jaime that she's from the future.
Takes it like a champ.
Believes her.
Yeah, he believes because he loves her.
She tells him everything. And Jaime walks her back to the standing stones and says, you do not need to be here.
Oh.
You have a life. You have a home. You have a husband. I am releasing you to go back to your husband.
Yeah. Ugh.
And he walks away. There is a struggle, but he walks away.
Oh,
Jaime touches the stones. Jaime touches the stones, but he can't.
That's love, actually.
Yeah, and Jaime was like, this is a turbulent time. You don't need to be here. You have your own life. people, whatever. And so he walks away, and Claire is just kind of sitting there all day and all night contemplating, what do I do?
Alone in the dark with the wild animals?
But Jamie goes to this little cottage or something that's somehow, I don't know, he goes somewhere and he's like, but if you need me, I'm right here. I'm not going to leave until I know you're safely where you need to be.
Oh, what a gentleman. Okay.
Jamie
does that these days.
Yeah. So Jamie was also a virgin when they got married, girl. He was like, I ain't having nothing till I get married.
Oh, how honorable.
Yeah.
And Claire was like, what? I don't know what to do with all that. Anyway.
It gets very spicy after they get married.
I mean, if I was
like,
Jamie.
oh.
Anyway. Moving forward. So Claire obviously decides to stay.
Should I stay or should I stay?
She
stays, and I loved it.
Plus, how
Jamie actually cries when he chooses that, when he realizes that she chose him.
He says the most beautiful things to her, and they're not cringy or cheesy, which I think is why I'm always, I would pause and be like, seriously, like, who is this guy? This is too perfect. Like,
yeah, some of the stuff he says, you have to kind of like,
you're like,
where can I get one of them?
Like he says, my favorite, the wanting, does it ever stop? It's just like, geez. But anyway.
Wait, so
yes,
she chooses to stay. Does she try to, I don't know, twirl around and get back to her time zone? Like, how does that work?
Cannot confirm or deny.
There's 8 other books.
Not in this book. Well, I'll just say this. In this book, she's in Scotland.
Okay, but she doesn't attempt to go back in the first book.
She did. She did once, but then she got captured
by the English.
By Jack.
Wait,
Randall.
so she's twirling around, hocus pocus, and it's not
working.
Twirling
around, girl. Oh, her and Jamie had a fight. So what had happened was, so listen, her and Jamie had a fight.
About?
I will say this. Jamie and Claire are the exact opposite of Frank and Claire. Jamie and Claire, they love hard, but they fight hard. I mean, they are extremes. They are both of them. Jamie is stubborn. Claire is stubborn. And so they do bump heads. They're everything about the relationship in a lot of ways is extreme. They're very passionate people.
Situation.
So they're very passionate people.
Okay.
And so they have an argument. And so Jamie in the Klansmen, while they're out, they leave her. My face is itchy. They
I don't know if you saw that, but mission accomplished. Go carry on.
She wants to go with them. Long story short, again, we know that Jamie is an outlaw. And there is an Irishman named Horrocks. And Horrocks. Is it Horrocks? No, Horrocks is somebody else. I forgot the guy's name.
What's his
Horrocks
name?
is somebody
it's
else.
a weird name with an X.
Yeah, it's completely evading me. But there is an Irishman who claims to know who killed this Englishman that Jamie is accused of killing. And so they go to see him. And so, but they're like, it's dangerous. We don't really know what to expect. Claire, you stay here. Stay in this little safe area. You stay here. We'll come back.
Oh, what is
But they've had an argument. And Claire's like, I'm not going to do what you finna tell me to do, bruh. So she started, and then she realized she's close to the stones. She somehow has come back for a circle. She realized she's close to the stones. And she's like, I'm finna do what I'm going to do. And she starts going towards them stones. Okay. And then the English catch her.
Literally the moment she's about to touch the stones.
Oh.
No, she was drowning. She was about to drown.
Oh, she was drowning.
She was kind of drowning.
That's in the TV show. I'm getting them confused.
Yeah. So she doesn't get as close to the stones again as she does in the show, but she's on her way back. She's like, you know what? Forget this. Forget you, your mama, your daddy, your cousin. I'm going home. I'm sick of all y'all. I'm leaving. I'm not supposed to be here anyway.
Yeah. She went back to her original plan. She's been always wanting to go back. When she's like stuck at the castle, she's been always wanting to go back.
Yeah.
She just didn't have the resources.
Yeah. So that's the only other time she has made up her mind to go back, but it was out of spite.
So she got intercepted when she was going to try and do the hocus pocus touch the rock thing.
Yeah.
So do you think that's fate? That's the events of the world intercepted her ability to go back home. Do you think it's her destiny or purpose, whatever you want to call it, to be
pull
in
up my notes.
1743?
I want to hear Alana's
Let me
take.
pull up my notes.
I thought really hard about this.
Okay.
But I want to hear Alana first about time travel and fate.
Hold on. I have 5 major themes for this novel.
How much time don't we have?
It's a long novel.
We can do part 1 and part 2.
One thing that Diana Gabaldon really stresses, she actually does ask a lot of moral and ethical / philosophical questions when it comes to time travel and fate. So I guess, of course, you could say, well, what is fate? But clearly, she's alluding to the fact that, or the concept that Jaime and Claire are meant to be together. And that in this universe where time travel is possible, this world will do whatever it is that's necessary to do to make certain things happen that are supposed to happen. But this also overlaps with this question of, because Claire is from the future and she knows how the 1745 ends up, what is the responsibility morally and ethically of the time traveler? If you're from the future, do you have the right to tamper with history? Ooh. Because she's assuming, I know that this is going to end up badly for these people. Don't I have a right to save their life? But if you try to tilt it towards the favor of the Scottish, do you know what other things that you're tampering with? And there's this really great quote, if you don't mind.
Indeed.
Because one thing, so really Diana Gabaldon is posing the question, what impact does the individual have on history? And when you add up all these individuals making autonomous decisions, that is what history is. So here's a question. Here's the quote that
beautifully
I was like,
said.
Great for 2022, y'all. Unite.
Spoiler alert. So there is another person that Claire confides in that she's from the future, and this is a Catholic priest.
Oh, I love this part.
He believes her. Yeah, I like this guy.
I like this guy a lot.
So he says, you say that you're afraid to take any actions here for fear of affecting the future. This is illogical, madam. Everyone's actions affect the future. Had you remained in your own place, your actions would have affected what was to happen, no less than they will now. You have still the same responsibilities that you would have had then, that any man has at any time. The only difference is that you may be in the position to see more exactly what effects your actions have, and then again, you may not. You have free choice. So have all the others in this world. And history, I believe, is the accumulation of all those actions. But whatever you are to do, you will require strength for it. So take one last bit of advice. When in doubt, eat.
I highlighted that too.
I love that section. And Claire even poses earlier in the novel, she's thinking about, because she's from 1945, World War II, and how people justify the decisions that they do or do not make. Well, I didn't know what was happening. Or she also talks about mob rule and how people just kind of go with the flow when really each individual has a choice to make.
It's a collective.
Exactly. But each individual creates the collective. That's why I think that this book is actually deep. I think if you take all the sexy sex out, okay, even if you, this book is hot.
I want to call it smashing the whole time.
They smash, man. There's some tender moments, but they're getting it. But if you take that out,
they're passionate people.
They are aggressive. Crazy. But if you take, but I will say, side note, even in those scenes, Diana Gabaldon even uses those scenes for character development. Nothing is wasted. Even the sex scenes have character development.
And this is her first novel, right?
She wrote scientific papers. Yeah, she's a scientist.
Really impressive.
So is she a genius?
I think so.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you take this book it can get quite violent. If you take the violence out, if you take the sex out, the novel still stands. It does not fall apart at all because she's asking these heavy questions. I mean, you could also ask the question, and why put that in there? But we know why it appeals to the masses.
It sells.
But nothing is wasted. Even the spicy scenes have character development. You can actually see how Jaime and Claire's relationship develops through their coming together as one.
Well, that's the point too, isn't it?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So So yeah, that and so she also talks about romanticizing the past, because how can you fully understand the past if you've never been there? Even when it comes to us, when we talk about hard topics like the Holocaust, people are there are so many documentaries and shows and movies and novels about the Holocaust, almost to the point where it's still romanticized. And almost some people, not all, will kind of consume this type of content as a voyeurism, it's a form of voyeurism, because how could that, it's still hard to grasp, but Diana Gabaldon is still kind of waving this flag like, be careful how you treat the past. These are actual people who had to live these lives. Don't over romanticize or oversimplify what the individuals in these time periods past have had to endure. I'm gonna just take it over to you, Marianne. I've talked enough. I get really as a history major, I get really into this kind of stuff.
I love that.
Yeah, I love it.
Because go for it.
No, go ahead. Because at the end of the book, Claire does kind of make up her mind. Like, no, okay, is this at the end of the book or the show? It's not it's not that much of a spoiler. You kind of get the idea. Okay, 1745 is about to happen in 2 years. Let's see what we can do to stop this thing.
Oh yeah, you can kind of hint at it at the end of the book.
That's where this is going to go.
Where she's going to go. Yeah. I was trying to think of time travel with like a woman in the forefront, and I couldn't think of one. Like I can just think of men traveling, like in TV shows and movies. Back to the Future. Like Back to the Future, the time traveler's wife, or like Just in Time. Terminator. Sorry.
I'm trying to think, could you throw Star Wars in there, in the sense that there may not be time travel, but you've got portals, you've got dimensions.
A Wrinkle in Time is one.
That's one with a girl trying to find her leadership, her dad, in a way, her dad. But I couldn't think of like a woman of today going back in that time. And I was like, wow, I can't think of like a story like this. And when I look at all like those time traveling movies, they go back in time for the greater good. Like, oh, all these people are going to, like Avengers, the snap. Oh, I'm going to prevent the snap, so I'm going to go back.
Oh,
but
right.
Then I get so lost, because then there's things in like Terminator. The one guy goes back, he like has sex with the mom and then brings out the boy who is there to be the salvation of the robots. I forget his name. But it's so funny, like he went back in time, but it was fate for him to go back in time to produce the person who's going to save them from the robots and stuff. So I get so confused when it comes to time, to be quite honest. But I like how you said it, like to each and everyone's action. And I like how in the beginning, it is a big info dump in the beginning, because you're like, do I care about the genealogy? But then by the end of the book, you're like, wait, no, these people are actual humans. And your perspective totally changes as you go back in time.
And Diana Gabaldon, in future novels, you do get actual historical figures who make appearances.
Oh, cool.
So I have a question for you, Marianne. What do you think? What do you project is going to happen in the second installment? Because knowing what you know now, what happened in Outlander, if you were to just think, Dragonfly and Amber. So at the end of the novel, Rachel, they actually are in France. They're in France because they had to leave Scotland. Jaime and Blackjack Randall. I don't even want to talk about it.
I don't even want to talk about it either.
It's the show. Can I have a sidebar? Another sidebar.
Yeah.
This is where I think that TV adaptations do novels a disservice. The book is graphic, but because we're completely in Claire's head, there are certain elements that we just don't know. There is this horrible Jaime and Blackjack Randall have a bump in at the end of the book, sorry. And it is graphic. He abuses Jaime horribly. But we don't
abuse.
All of the above.
All the anything you can think of.
We know that Blackjack Randall is a sadist.
Yeah.
But because we're in Claire's head the entire time, we only get snippets. Diana Gabaldon is very intelligent, and she trusts the intelligence of her reader.
I respect that.
She can fill in the blanks. She's graphic where she needs to be graphic, but she'll allude to things where she needs to allude to things, and you fill in the blanks. The show shows everything that happened between Jaime and Black Jack Randall. And I have a tough stomach, but I cannot watch it. It's just unnecessary. And I wish they had exactly. It's to get views. I wish they had trusted the intelligence of the viewer to give us little hints, because you know what happened. We don't need to see it all.
Yeah. Fade to black. That's where
Fade to black and do what Dana
really
Gabaldon did and trust the intelligence of the viewer or the watcher or the reader, because we're not dumb. This is adult fiction.
Well, as Marianne says,
well, you know, I say intelligence is on a spectrum.
People, and then Alana says intelligence is on a spectrum. So, you know,
even Game of Thrones does this. There are things where J.R.R. Martin will allude to certain things, but the show just will. Sometimes some of those scenes in the show are created; they're not in the books at all. So Diana Gabaldon, I was supposed to be talking about how we ended up in France. Yeah. So long story short, these things happen. Jaime is abused by Black Jack Randall, and so they have to get out of Scotland because they break him out of prison.
Oh, like
Claire breaks him out of prison. Claire ain't playing. What you not finna do is kidnap my boy. She's like, nah, that's my man. He done go to the edge of the earth for me. I'm finna go to the edge of the earth for him. Let's get my boy out of jail. So they break their brother with cattle, girl. They get some cattle. Girl, they break that boy out.
Cattle. And it's really great because before Jaime has saved Claire twice.
So many times.
And it wasn't like, oh, he saved, like just went in there, grabbed her, and ran out in a way that was.
He tells you better take your hands off my wife.
Yeah, like he does that with Jack. And then in a witch trial,
pistol, girl, he had a pistol. He said, "Girl,
I guess they didn't have pistols then, huh?"
Yeah,
I think they're black. I'm sorry. I know they're English. They're living in the UK, but they're black to me.
Anyway,
Scotsmen are great.
When they save each other, because it's just much more powerful and exciting. Because I feel like when you read or watch things like, oh, let's plot this little plan. No, they one-on-one, they go and grab each other and get it. And it's very exciting. But then they escape to, is it a monastery?
So after they completely they get him out of Wentworth prison, and there is a Scotsman who has some land nearby. He has a large house, and they take Jaime in for the time being. Claire doctors him up, and then they take him to a monastery in France. That is again a relative of Jaime. Jaime is a very educated man for this time period. Actually,
very connected. And
he has a Scottish uncle there, cousin, uncle, somebody who's there.
And it's rough. Like he is recovering from the abuse mentally, physically. It is rough.
I think Jamie's gonna die at one point because he's just giving up. He's just completely defeated.
But there's some in the end. There's a little bit, like, we get through all that. We get a little hope. It hints at a child, correct? That last line, it hints that she's pregnant. They have this wonderful cave scene, which I feel like influences every cave scene I've seen in any romance.
And it's also a symbolism, because they're in a cave, and the cave is symbol, and there's these two little beings in this big cave this warm kind of body of water, like a
hot spring,
natural hot spring. That's what I'm looking for. So you have this, they're having sexy time, but you have these two, a sperm and an ovary, coming together in a womb of the earth, symbolizing that Claire is pregnant.
Oh, girl, you went there. I love it.
That's, nothing that Diana Gabaldon does is wasted.
So I thought of Hunger Games. Is that influenced by this? There's a cave.
Probably.
It's not very good cave writing at all, but
I can't remember that at all.
I've read so many romances or seen so many TV shows with a cave in it, and there's a romance scene. So I feel like
Gabaldon, man.
Yeah,
it's
right.
Kind of slimy, but whatever.
It's hot. It's a hot
all of that to say, what you think finna happen?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So that was a huge detour.
But we had to give her the context. We had to get her the context.
And
it's
because they're in France now. Second book, they're in France.
So I think there's going to be strong struggles and themes in their relationship and marriage, because you cannot quickly recover under what Jack Randall did to Jaime. That was really rough. So definitely their relationship and marriage is definitely going to elevate or deflate. Something's going to happen there where it's jumping through some hoops. I think too. I think she is going to try and attempt to stop the rebellion through some politics, through some relationship building. I think we're going to see a little politics come into play, is what I predict, because we're in another country. What are we doing? What role are we going to play? I do like how, like, she feels kind of like a prophet. Like, I can see the future, and she goes, "Oh, this must be what Cassandra felt like." I love that little like mention of that.
Yes,
so,
I highlighted that.
Me too.
She's like,
me
no wonder the
too.
prophets were so frowned upon, because their
Frowned
bearers
upon.
of bad news.
Yeah.
A
So
true prophet, anyway.
I wonder how she'll take advantage of her knowledge and the prophet. And so, yeah. And then, of course, baby, I'm excited.
I have a question for you, Marianne.
Yeah.
Do you think that Diana Gabaldon is, with the prophet quote, if she's alluding to Claire being the only one in this series that is the time traveler? Are other characters that you may or may not come across in the future who just know things?
Oh.
People who may, in their time, or the time that they're currently like 1740, whatever, who know things are weird to the actual people of that time, are characters with extra knowledge, prophetess or prophetesses, witches.
Warlocks.
Are they other time travelers?
I think there are. I mean, there's 8 more books. I mean, I hope there are. I think there, because we meet the wit. What's her name? The witch. Galis, who's such an interesting character.
She's crazy.
She's crazy.
She's insane.
But we needed her. We needed her.
Galis.
We needed Galis. So she's crazy. And they're the two that, before the end of the book, they are in a witch trial together. And Galis basically takes all the blame and points to, this is the scar of the devil.
Smallpox vaccination.
It's the smallpox vaccination. And that's where Claire goes.
Yeah, Galis flashes her smallpox vaccination scar to Claire when Jaime comes to rescue her, to let her know,
I'm one of you.
And she tells her 1964 or something like that. And yeah.
So I definitely think there's others, because if there's Galis, there's definitely more. And I wonder how their actions, how that ripple effect will play out.
Galis is wild.
Maybe the future's already influenced by the past and we just don't know it. Maybe that's what she's saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Weird.
Because how do you know you're not actually already written into history and you think you're changing it, but you have a place in 2 parallel universes? Bam.
Oh, my brain.
But
I love it.
I guess depending on what your religious beliefs are, you know that the future is already known anyway.
We're running out of time, but I want to jump
on it.
I'm twitching. Because we do have these really, really great conversations between Claire and these priests in the end of the first book. And Claire, she's really agnostic.
Yeah,
but she was raised Catholic. Her parents were Catholic, but her uncle, she was really raised by her Uncle Lamb, who was agnostic. But she has these really interesting conversations with these priests. But Jaime is very religious.
He's Catholic?
Yeah, he's Catholic.
They had like a Catholic wedding ceremony.
Yeah, he's Catholic.
Thing.
It sounds like that Diana treats the priests with respect. So in a lot of modern literature and movies, the church, particularly the Christian church, regardless of denomination, is looked down upon as being kind of the scum of the earth in ancient history, archaic, backwards. And so that's not the case in the book.
No, that's the priests, even though they're minor characters, they're some of the most likable.
Okay. They're mentors to her, it sounds
she's Diana Gabaldon, she has to be knowledgeable of some type of scripture. I don't know if how she was raised, but she does allude to Bible stories, and there are hints of verses you can tell where she pulled out, especially when the priests are talking. So she does her research. That's why it takes her so long to release one book. Some of these books can take her almost 10 years to write because she's doing so much research.
And to write in so many pages.
Yeah, she long-winded. But that's okay.
She likes her job, probably.
It is very lengthy. Like, this isn't a light read.
No.
Like, this is like, oh, let me read all about the Scottish history, and we touched rocks.
Yeah, and even in the second book, you're in France, so you're in the court of Louis XIV.
Oh, fun. So much to look forward to.
Yeah. Bonnie Prince Charlie, who is the the who, of course, in this time the Scottish are claiming as the rightful heir to the English throne.
There we go.
Mm-hmm. Which is why you have the Jacobite Rebellion of 1745.
I definitely had to use Wikipedia for some of this to get like some more. I knew nothing about Scottish history. I knew they want freedom, but that's all I knew.
Do you think in the future books they stay in Scotland?
No way. I don't think so. Because we're already in France. I feel like we're going to different places.
I want to hear some of your hypotheses. Where do you think that they go, Marianne? I gave Rachel some info.
It's exciting.
Oh, you did?
Some intel. Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have to go to America. I feel like they have to. So
why do you think they have to go to America?
Because she talks about it. She talks about
she does drop some hints.
She drops some hints. She goes, Jaime, go to America. Don't go, because she won't before she
go to the colonies.
Before she gets her second chance at the Stones, where Jaime leaves her, she does warn him, like, there's going to be a rebellion in 2 years. Don't be there. Go to America. Go. I wonder if they'll go to London, America. We're in France. I'm so bad at my 1740s history, to be quite honest. But I think definitely America.
Okay.
Rachel's like it.
I think you should watch Poldark though. So I mean, so Jaime is to Ross as Demelza is to Claire, because
it's a whole different level, girl.
Take Jaime over Ross any day.
No, but the way they complement each other. So Alana,
they're very complimentary
for each other. So it sounds like Jaime and Claire are perfect for each other because they
scheme together.
Yeah.
They do scheme.
Because Demelza would bust Ross out of jail.
Oh,
and Ross would bust Demelza out of jail. So I'm like, it's a similar type of concept of they're committed.
Yeah.
Oh, they're committed. You get that.
I guess if you stay in the past for somebody, you better commit.
Right. You leave contact solution.
And Claire's really not that bothered by, living rougher. The only thing that she misses is a hot bath.
And that's all she says to him.
She's like, I just miss hot baths, which is why Jaime took her to the hot spring. He said, I found you a bath, girl. Oh, snap, my man.
This is too much. It's like a Hallmark movie, but roughing it in the camping scene.
No, this is definitely an elevated story. Like, it's on a different level. It's like up there. It's like a Michelin star.
People think that, it's Outlander. It's just smut 24/7. It's really not. It's really not. And I've heard that in the later books, especially when you start getting to like 5, 6, 7, 8, even men who have somehow latched on, they're like, there are still some scenes, but you can tell that if you like history, if you like character development, it gets more, they call it's actually becoming more literary fiction, especially as the series continues.
Beans. Well, I feel like we've exhausted a lot of themes. In a good way. I feel tired, actually. I'm tempted to read it, but skim sections because I just
skim sections. It's skimmable.
Just skim. You can skim. There's 800 pages. You can skim.
Some of I'm trying to think. Is there a lot of No, because again, you don't get what happened to Jaime because you're not in Jaime's head.
Right. You said that. It's the show.
Yeah, I don't think it's as graphic.
No, not at all. And when he tells you what happened, he's not going into detail. It's uncomfortable, but it's not like, and then this happened, and then this happened. No, because he doesn't want to talk about it anyway.
Okay.
But the sexy scenes, if you want to read those, you could skim those, or just say
read the spice. I don't know why. Especially when it's just really intense spice. Like
it's spicy.
I just don't like reading that.
It's spicy with the extra dose of spice and spice.
Yeah, it's just not my thing.
Spices from all over the world. Exotic spice.
Yeah, it's like short spice.
No, it's not.
Well, except that one, like,
you read mafia romances. What are you reading?
Yeah. I'm just letting you know. I've read spicier. Yeah.
And scene.
Fade to black.
Fade
to black.
Okay, then.
It's spicy. I'm
I'm over here reading like gulag memoirs. That's what I read. Cambodia genocide memoir. That's what I read.
Well, Rachel, let us know if you read it and what you think of it. And you can skip those scenes. I think so. I definitely glazed over the Jackman. Yeah,
Cool. Okay, guys. Well, this has been fun. Thanks for joining us, Alana, for the Did We Stutter show. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to get us above 20 people. And
if you
I hope our friend, the reading girl, is watching and enjoyed this tons.
Rachel, don't be petty. Don't be petty. Now, if you guys are curious to know my full review and thoughts on Outlander, I actually have a book review posted on my YouTube channel. It's Alana Estelle, ALANA space ESTELLE. These kind ladies would kindly put a link for the viewers. You can go see my full thoughts. I break down all of my analysis and all that stuff.
We'll link to your socials.
I appreciate you. I'll bill you later.